stages of penetration testing. So basically, if any sort of hacker actually wants to hack any particular individual or any particular organization, then that hacker, either it's a black hat or a white hat hacker, then he has to actually go through some of the steps. So actually this penetration testing or ethical hacking, it's a simulation of cyber attacks to a computer systems or application or infrastructure. Actually, in this step, what any hacker will do, that he will be actually analyzing any sort of vulnerability associated to a system or to a organization or to any sort of individual. Oh, sorry. So there are certain steps where what the hackers will follow here. So first step is like footprinting or network discovery. So in the footprinting or network discovery stage, the hacker actually tries to gather as much information as possible about the individual or about the organization or whatever the target is. And in the second stage, the scanning, the hacker will actually try to get more information about the technical information, like about the network, about the ports, about the DNS. So all those whatever the system is associated to. So all those information the hacker will try to get. And in the enumeration stage, so whatever the hackers will get the information from the previous two stages, the footprinting and the scanning stage, the hacker will try to build on it. Okay, so it's actually in this stage, the hacker will try to actually get over the system. And in the fourth stage, that is the gaining access, the hacker is going to have full access to a particular system or to a particular, whatever the target is, the hacker will be having the full access to that particular target. So hacker can actually get any sort of information that is relevant to him. And once the hacker has the access to us the target, the hacker will actually try to maintain it till the time actually the hacker has got the information or whatever his target is. Until he gets those things, he will try to maintain the access to that particular system or to that particular target. And if you talk about any particular hacker, so hacker doesn't actually want to leave anything, any footprints actually. So that he actually doesn't want to be tracked. So whatever the hacker will actually do with your system, if he has installed any sort of application to your system, or if he has done any changes to your system or to the organization, he will actually try to flush all these details. Actually, all those logs actually the hacker will try to delete from the system. So that is the last step, that is the clearing track step that the hackers follow. So coming to information gathering, so as it is said, that information is power. If you talk about any particular field, the more information you have about anything or about any topic, the more actually you will, the more chances that you will understand it and you can actually make use of it. So that's what I have mentioned here, having critical information at the right time. So the information is okay, but that information you should have at the right time, and you should have the ability actually how this information can be used also. So if you have the information and you know how to use it, then that information can be a great source of power. Similarly, in cyber world also, this information about the target is a very coveted things on all fronts. All fronts means, even suppose if you are a hacker, a black hat hacker, if you want to hack some sort of system, then you should have the information about, the more information you gather about the system or the target, the more actually the good, the more probability that you are going to hack the system will be there. And if you are trying to, if you are suppose you are a ethical hacker, okay, so in that case also the more information you have will be vital. Or suppose if you are if you're someone, I mean, if you are in a blue team and you want to save some sort of system from hacking, so in that case also, the more information you have, that is going to be useful. So gathering information is actually a first step where the hacker tries to get more information about the system. So as I mentioned, it's both in the cracking and the ethical hacking. So actually, it's one of the most crucial and it's the most time-consuming step, you can say, because before actually getting into the system, you have to have more and more knowledge about the system. So it's an art actually. The information gathering, you can say, it's an art which actually every hacker, or you can say penetration tester, wants to have. The more you are good at information gathering, the more the better you will be at hacking some system or some organization. So actually, hackers use different sources and tools to get more information about that. So we'll be talking about some of the tools in the later lectures, and we'll have demonstration also how we can make use of those tools actually. So actually, coming to the information gathering, so information can be gathered from from the network data also, like to which a network your system is connected to. The public and private associated domain names, and then the network host, then the IP blocks, routing table, TCP, UDP running services. So from all those, things you can anyone can gather the information. And similarly, we can collect information from system also, like what kind of system architecture you are using, what is the OS you are using, right? So all those things can also provide us some meaningful information. So any particular hacker will try to gather all those informations. So as I mentioned, there are various stages in penetration testing. So first step is like footprinting. So the first step is the footprinting is like connecting as much information as possible about the target. So the target, as I mentioned, it can be any victim, it can be any system, or it can be any network also, or it can be any organization also. So whatever information actually you connect, so it makes a unique footprint or a profile. So let's see, whenever actually you want to know someone, so you collect actually information about them. What is the name, where they live, where they work actually, their date of birth. So all those, whenever you want to know a person, you want to gather these information, this initial information, and then you go into the details of that person, right? So similarly, this footprinting is related to you make a footprint of that particular target or that particular profile. Okay, so once you have that footprint, you know well who is my victim and how I can actually what is the vulnerabilities related to my victim. So once you have that thing clear, then you can target your victim. So so as I mentioned, you collect the system information, organizations information, and the network information. So the other things actually you can go for is like the IP address range of in which IP the particular system is working. Okay, in which IP range. Like then you can know about the DNS server to which actually DNS server this particular that DNS server record also actually you can go through to know more about the system. So if you talk about footprinting, it can be broadly classified into two types, like active footprinting and passive footprinting. So basically, active footprinting is like how you can actually see once you want to know about someone, you can do it in two ways. Either you can directly approach the person and you can know about him or her, or you can go with some indirect path. I mean, through his friends or through his social status. Through how those things are. Going through those things also you can know more about persons. So similarly here in case of footprinting, either it can be active or it can be passive. So active is like interacting directly with the target. So whatever your target is, So you would want to know about that target system or target organization directly. So if it is a system, you want to know, I mean, as I told, what is the architecture of the system, to what is the OS related to that system, to which network the system is connected, right? To which DNS, what is the DNS records of that system. So all those things actually, what is the routing table. So all those things directly from the system actually you want to gather. Okay, so like some of the tools we have for directly getting the information is like Nmap. So Nmap might be discussed in the yesterday's class. So Nmap is basically a tool for getting, information from the system. And then one more tool we have is like Eyewitness. So using these tools also we can gain more of the DNS related information to the system. And if you talk about passive footprinting, so in passive footprinting, actually we go from some other routes to know about the target. Like we can go for the search engine, like if my system, if you want to target some system, so to which pages that, what is the history, which web pages are being searched from the system, then what is the website. If you want to hack a particular website, then you can get information about the website. Right, then you can get the information from social media pages also, right? Because people are sharing their information to the social media also nowadays. So from that also you can actually get more and more information. So like one of the tool we have is like Social Mapper. So suppose if you want to hack a particular person, okay, a particular to a particular host actually you want to hack. So in that case, what you can do, this Social Mapper, what it does actually, it actually distinguishes people on the social media platform from their name or from their image. It uses the facial recognition also. To know a particular ID. So suppose if you have different IDs on Facebook, Insta, and LinkedIn. So this Social Mapper actually can map that this particular ID is related to the same person. From your your name or from your profile. From your profile photo also it can do those things. And then the other tool we have is like Harvester. Harvester is also, it's related to the domain name system. So this tool also is very useful if you want to gather information about a particular system. So if you talk about information gathering, so what are the useful information that actually you can gather? So I have mentioned some also, like some of them I have noted down here. Like you can gather information about the network details for that system, then the domain information you can gather, then open ports. What are the open, if there is some open ports on the or some TCP UDP services are there on that particular system, that information can also be gathered. Then like I talked about OS. So if there is Windows OS on a particular system, you can gather information about the Windows permissions. Then you can gather information about the user information, about the group information. And if there is something running in the background also, so those information also can be gathered. So in this slide, actually, I have given some more on how actually we can gather more info. How actually we can gather information. So one of the simplest way to gather information is like social engineering. So in social engineering, what can be done? It actually plays with the psychology of the people. You can manipulate a particular person to gather their useful information. Like you might have seen in ads, like how we can manipulate someone to give their name or their Aadhaar details or their email IDs, right? So those things actually you can either through chat or through phone conversations, right, or through email spoofing also. You might have seen that a lot of mails we get from different anonymous sources. So using those tricks, actually you can play with the psychology of the person to gain information from them. So that is one way of gathering information. Then the other way is like social networks. So nowadays we like to put our throughout day whatever we are doing, all those things actually we like to put on social media like WhatsApp or Insta or Twitter. Okay, so through that also lots of vital information like your name, your location, what you are doing throughout the day. So those things can be tracked from the social media also. And those things actually provide some vital information to the hackers. Similarly, Google hacking is there. So normally, suppose you are an organization, and suppose you have some internal systems are there. Actually, you don't want to put that. Like suppose you have some registration portal is there, or for your employees you have developed a portal, okay, internally. But suppose in Google hacking, what can be done? Whatever internally you have made a portal on the local server also. So those information can be fetched on the internet. Okay, so hackers can actually use those information. So those were the information actually as an organization, you actually don't want to put it to external world. Okay, but because of this Google hacking and so those information, those information can be tracked by the hackers, and that can provide actually lots of vital information about the employees, or if suppose there is a educational institution is there, so lots of information can be gained about the students, right? So, and then the next thing is like domain names, right? So suppose if any hacker is trying to target any organization, or suppose any government organization, so from the domain name, itself, lots of information can be gathered. So that is also a great source of information gathering. Then from the website framework and from the DNS records, and I will show you how the DNS records can be extracted, or the reverse IP check. So reverse IP check is generally related to a particular web server. Actually, lots of different websites can be registered. Okay, so the hacker can actually know all those information, like to a particular web server, what are the websites running. Okay, so from that also a lot of information can be gathered. Okay, so like if you are hosting a web server to your system, so like what kind of operating system the server is using, what are the open ports in the server, what are the what kind of services are running on that particular server. So from that also the hacker can get lots of information. Now I'll talk about some of the tools that can be used for footprinting. So the first tool we have is Whois. So Whois actually, it's a internet record listing. Okay. So it's a kind of query response protocol that is widely used for querying database. So actually, if you want to know some information about a particular domain name, right? So this tool, Whois tool, can provide you those vital information related to the a particular domain. So I will show you one example also. So as I have mentioned here, so it's an internet record listing tool to identify who owns a domain and who registers for that particular domain, right? So just let me. So the screen is visible. This web browser is visible.
Yeah, it is visible.
Okay. So basically, so this is a website actually, whois.domainstool.com. So here actually you can get lots of information related to a particular domain. Like if I go to google.com, if I search google.com here, okay, so you can see it's showing some information like this is a registered organization. Okay, so the registrar, about the details of the registrar is also shown here, like the name, their mail, their contacts, all these things are there. And then on which date actually this domain was registered, that detail is also shown. Then the name servers. So name servers are actually very important. It actually connects, whenever we search something on a browser, we can actually simply search through there. To the from their domain name. I mean like google.com, but actually that domain name actually it connects to a IP, like so there will be a Google server will be running on a particular IP. So actually whatever we search here, www.google.com, so that is actually, it's a actually you see for every server there is a particular IP associated. There is a particular IP associated. But for any user, so you can't actually remember all those IP, like for Google, what is the IP search. So to simplify the thing, we are given a domain name like www.google.com. But actually, when any sort of request goes from our client, I mean from our browser, that has to be, it has to be again, it has to be converted into that particular IP name. So those things actually are done by this name server. So name server, you can say it's a link between your browser and your web server. Okay. So so as it is shown here, so Google has actually 4 name servers to them, like NS1, NS2, NS3, and NS4. Similarly, what is the IP address? That thing is also shown here. Then IP location is there, right? So IP history. So all this information actually about, so if you simply type www.google.com, so this who is actually is going to provide you this much of information. And this information is actually very vital for the hackers. Similarly, if I try some other website like www.nilit.gov.in. Okay, so as it is shown here, so this is the registrant organization, NILIT. So the country is India. The registrar is National Informatics Center. Okay, so it is showing the registration status and on which date it was registered. And then we have again 4 name servers here. So mostly are NIC name servers. Okay, so the IP location, all those things are actually shown here. What is the website title? That thing is also shown here. Okay, so in a way, this tool actually is very vital for gaining information related to a particular domain name. So actually, this whatever the records who is having, so this who is records have proven extraordinarily beneficial and have developed into an essential source for manipulating the domain name registration. So actually, if you talk about domain name registration also, like GoDaddy, if you talk about, so GoDaddies are also using this particular tool for new domain name registration. And actually for website ownership integrity also, these tools are actually used, so that a particular domain name will not be shared by others. Okay, so for those purpose, actually, this WHOIS tools is also used. The next tool I will talk is NSLookup. So NSLookup is again, it's a name server lookup, and it is also a network administration tool. Okay, but like in WHOIS, I told you, you have to go, you can access it through, through some browser. But if you talk about NSLookup, this NSLookup actually, it is free. If you talk about any particular OS, Windows or Linux, this NSLookup will be there by default. So if I talk about my operating system, so I'm using a Windows 10 operating system. So if I go to my command prompt, so if I just search here NSLookup, so I just run this command NSLookup. So now I am having a command prompt here. and it is showing my default server is anycast.delhi.nic.in. So if I suppose I want to know about a particular domain name, so I can simply type the domain name here, suppose google.com. Okay. So you can see it is showing me the name. The name is the google.com, and it is showing me the address for that particular domain name also. So suppose if you want to know about that, what is the name server for this particular domain name, Google. As I showed you in Whois, that the Google is having 4 particular domain, name servers. Okay. So similarly, suppose if you want to know what are the name servers related to google.com. So what you can do, you can simply type here so set type is equal to ns. So ns basically stands for name servers, right? Now if I search google.com here, so now it is showing me the name servers, right? So as I showed you in the last demo, that the name servers were ns1, ns2, ns3, and ns4. So there are 4 name server related to google.com. So similarly, if you want to know more information like about the mail exchangers of Google, if you want to know, so you can simply write here set type is equal to MX. So now if I do google.com here, so it will show me all the mail exchanges for google.com. So as you can see here, these are the mail exchanges. Alt1, Alt3, Alt4, and Alt2, and ASPMX. So these are the mail exchanges for google.com. Similarly, suppose if you want to know all particular information related to a particular domain, so simply you can type set type is equal to all. And now if I just type google.com here, right? So it is showing me all the details related to google.com. So what are the name servers? What are the the addresses, IP addresses? What is the mail exchanges? As you can see, all these details are actually shown here. What is the primary name server? Okay. What is the serial address? What is the refresh rate? What is the retry, expire? All these things actually. What is the default TTL? So what is the default IPv6 address? So all these details related to this domain name is shown here. Okay. So now if you want to know that, whenever actually we are making any queries to this, to this particular server, or to this particular domain name, it is going through some server, right? So if I want to know what is the default server for my system for now, so you can see the default server is this one. MKN Anycast Delhi. So whatever request I am sending to google.com, it is going through this server only, and the address for this particular server is this one, 14.139.5.5. So now suppose if I want to change this server, I want to query google.com from some, suppose I want to query from the Google DNS server only. Okay, so Google has a by default DNS server, that is I just want to set the server. So the Google has by default DNS server of 8.8.8.8. Okay, 4 times 8. So suppose I want to set my server address to this one. So I will run this command server 8.8.8.8. So if I just run this command, okay, so now you can see. So now my default server is this one, dns.google, and my address is this one. So whatever request I will send now, that will go through this server only, from this address only. Okay. So those things actually you can do from this particular tool. Let's look up tool. And then there is one more tool, actually Dimitri. So actually you can run this tool on Linux system only. So these things actually will be shown in the next lecture, that how we can actually use it on a particular Linux machine. So the next step, as I discussed in the penetration testing, so the next step was actually scanning. Okay, so actually scanning is related to, like I told you in the primary step, what we do, we gather as much information as possible about the system. And if you talk about scanning, so generally in scanning, what we do, we try to gather again as much as possible network information and system information related to a system. So like some of the information I have given here is like you can have information about the TCP UDP services running on the system, then the system architecture, then the specific IP address of the system, operating system. So all those things actually you can gather in this system. Okay, so actually in all these steps actually we'll try to find the vulnerability related to the system. So when the vulnerability can be anything, like any missing patches, like any unnecessary services that you are running on your system, or if you have a weak authentication system, okay, or if you are running a weak encryption algorithm, and any service that is running on a weak encryption algorithm. So those are the vulnerability that we actually try to identify in these steps. So again, scanning can be actually can be divided in different types. Like we have network scanning, we have port scanning, and we have vulnerability scanning. So network scanning is it is related to like a particular host computer. What is their IP address? What is their open ports? Then the services, operating system, and system architecture. And port scanning basically it deals with the TCP and UDP ports on that particular system, right? And again, it fetches the it fetches the victim's organization IP addresses. And vulnerability scanning, it is like a it's a kind of proactive identification of the system vulnerabilities. If you have any particular vulnerabilities related to a system, so proactively we can identify it. Okay, and it is done actually in an automated manner. Okay, so in an automated manner, we can determine whether a particular system can be exploited for a particular attack or not. Okay, so those things actually we do in the vulnerability scan. So before actually moving to the scanning techniques, what techniques actually we can apply for scanning. So before moving on to that, I would like to talk about TCP/IP handshake. So I think you might have got a basic understanding of how the networking works, okay, till now. So what are the different layers in OSI or TCP/IP? So actually this TCP, actually it's a okay, so it's one of the protocol in your TCP/IP folder. So this TCP actually it's one of the transport layer protocol in TCP/IP standardization. So if you talk about TCP/IP handshake, so it's how actually a particular client connects to a server. Okay, so suppose I have a system and I want to actually connect it to a particular server. Suppose Google server I want to connect. So actually, whenever a client wants to connect to a server, so what the client will do, it will send a particular packet to that particular server. Okay, so this is the first step actually of communication between a client and a server. So as you can see in the figure, that there is a TCP client here and there is a TCP server here. So what the TCP client will do, it will send a packet, and that is actually a SYN packet. Okay, so this SYN packet actually includes the information like what is the reference number for this particular packet. Okay, so it's a synchronization packet. So it conveys the information that this particular client is actually it actually wants to communicate to, I mean it actually wants to communicate to the server, and it wants to send a packet with a particular reference number. Okay, so in reply, what the server will do? The server will reply with a SYN/ACK packet. So what it signifies that this particular server, whatever the client has sent, the server has got that particular packet. So this acknowledgement actually, this is for getting the packet from the client. That whatever packet the client sent, the server has already got it. Now server wants to communicate, okay, to the client with this particular reference packet. This is the particular number for the packet that the server wants to send. So in reply, now what the client will do, now client will also reply with a acknowledgement packet that whatever server wants to send, the client has got. Okay, so it's a three-way process. The first, client will initiate that I want to send a packet. Then server will say, okay, we are ready actually, we have got the message from you. Now we also want to send a packet. And in reply again, in the third step, what the client will do, it will reply that whatever packet you have sent, we have got it. So now it's a complete two-way communication. The client can also send the packet, the request packets, and the server can reply with the responses. So if you talk about any TCP/IP communication, it happens in these three steps actually. So coming to the scanning techniques. So the first scanning technique we have is TCP connect. So it's a most basic form of TCP scanning. So suppose I am a hacker and I want to connect to a particular system. So what I will do, as a client, first I will send a particular packet to that system. To the target system, right? So in this TCP connect, the idea is to actually develop a three-way handshake, right? So as a hacker, I will send a packet to the target system. So that will be what? That will be my SYN packet, sorry. And in reply, suppose the host system replies, suppose the host system replies with a packet like SYN/ACK. So what it signifies that the host system or the target system actually is listening, right? It is listening. That's why it is able to reply to our query. Okay. So in the third step, what I will do, I will simply reply with an acknowledgement step that whatever the target system has sent, I am acknowledging that. But again, suppose if the target system is actually not listening, it is an inactive system, or suppose if the port is not open. So in that case, what will happen? The target system will reply with a RST/ACK packet. So if as a hacker I get this packet, so what it suggests that the target port or the target system is not listening. The port is actually closed. It is not listening. That's why I'm not getting a proper response from the target system. So, right. So in that case also, I will just finish that. I will just terminate it with a SYN/ACK packet. It's acknowledgement packet. So again, it's a complete three-way handshake. But what is the disadvantage? That it is very slow actually, because it's a three-way process. It is going to be slow, and it is quite easy to detect this sort of scanning. Okay, so that's why we move to a different sort of scanning technique, that is SYN scan. Okay, so SYN scan, you can say it's a half open kind of a scanning. We don't complete actually the three-way handshake here. Okay, so in this, what the hacker will do, again the hacker will send a SYN packet to the victim, and again if the victim replies with a SYN/ACK frame, okay, so that means the I mean, the victim is listening, I mean, the port is open, right? The port is listening, and in that case, the hacker will complete the connection there itself. It will not send a acknowledgement packet to complete the connection. And suppose if the port is not listening, okay, so in that case, you will get a RST, uh, RST response from the, I mean, from the host or from the client, okay. So in that case, it is assumed that the port is actually closed or the system is not activating. So again, if you talk about this scanning technique, so this actually reduces the scan time, okay, and it doesn't raise much attention also because it's not a complete TCP handshake. So there will be, compared to the, I mean, TCP connect, it is more reliable in terms of scanning. So we'll talk about some of the tools actually we can use for scanning. Like one of the tool we have is like Angry IP Scanner. So Angry IP Scanner actually you can install in your system also. You can just show you. So this is the site actually, angryip.org. So you can move to this site, and from here actually you can install Angry IP Scanner for various operating systems. So like it is there for Windows also, for Linux also, or for, you can install it for Mac OS also. So I have already installed Angry IP Scanner in my system. Yeah, so in this actually you can provide some IP range here. Okay, so suppose if you want to scan some systems in a particular IP range, so what I actually it does actually, so Angry IP Scanner, it's a kind of very fast IP address and port scanner. So you can scan actually IP addresses in a particular range, as well as you can scan the ports also. Okay, so again, as I mentioned, it's a cross-platform thing and it's a lightweight thing. You can run it on any particular platform, and you can install it also, and you can simply copy it and you can run it on any particular system also. Okay, so actually what it does actually, it pings all the IP in a particular IP range. What it will do, it will ping all the IP addresses, and it will simply check whether that particular IP address is alive or not. Okay, so once a particular system is alive, okay, so it will give you the information. I mean, it can optionally, actually there is an option for, it can resolve its host name, it can determine the MAC address also, and it can scan the ports also. So I'll just move to this. So see, so by default actually by default it is taking a range from 172.16.0.0 to 172.16.7.255. So if I just scan, if I just start the scan in this range, I'll just simply start. So it has completed the scanning process here. So as you can see, some of the systems are actually red here and some of them are actually blue, right? So actually this red system, what it shows that these systems are, or these IPs are inactive for now. But if I talk about these blue ones are the active IPs. So like you can see, one of the blue IP we have here is 172.16.0.4, and this is showing the host name also. The host name is server. So if I just this is actually, it is taking some time. It is actually takes some time to scan all those IP because the range is actually from 0 to 255. So it will take some time actually. So I should actually reduce the range. I'll just stop it. See, so if I just click on this particular system, so it is showing me that what is the IP for that system, and then it is showing me the ping time also, and the host name also showing, and ports actually for now it is not available. Okay, so this port, and you can actually save this information also. You can just copy the information from here, right, and you can save it somewhere. So later on, if you want to use this information, you can use it. And you can put up some comments also here to this particular thing. So those things can be done here, right? Similarly, like okay, so like you see, the features actually, I showed you, like we have these features actually here. As I showed you, we have the IP, ping, host name, and ports. But these things actually can be changed also. Like if you want to add some more features, actually you can add it. Like TTL is there, MAC address is there, filtered ports is there, HTTP sender is there, HTTP proxy is there. So these things actually can be. So suppose if I want to have MAC address, so this I can fetch on this side, right? So now if I just put the scan here, so from 00 to suppose 0 to 55, right? So now you can see, now if I just open this active, okay, so now if I just open this, so because I fetched all those informations also, like MAC address, TTL, so those informations are also showing here, right? So you can actually optimize this, what informations you want for a particular system. So these things can be optimized here. And you can actually develop plugins also. If you're good in writing JavaScript, then you can write your own plugins here, and you can actually extend the functionality of Angry IP Scan. Then one more tool we have is like GenMap. So GenMap is again, okay, so GenMap is again, it's like Nmap might have been discussed yesterday. So it's again a version of Nmap only, but there is a GUI support here. Okay. So again, it's a multi-platform it's a multi-platform thing. You can use it on any platform, and it's a free and open source application, right? So it is actually aimed to make, and like if you found Nmap little trickier, then you can go for GenMap actually. So then GenMap is developed in a way to actually make things simpler for the beginners. Okay, so like again, it can be used for scanning value, which IPs are active and all. So those information you can gather from the GenMap also, and you can store the whatever results you are getting from the scan. So those informations actually you can store in a database also. So there will be a demo for it in the lab session. And then I have shown some comparison between the Angry IP Scanner and the NanMap. So actually, mostly if you talk about, I think this slide is little, is it visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, so like I have shown it.
Please go in full screen mode. Please go in full screen mode.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I have shown like Angry IP has user interface. I mean, it has a graphical user interface, but if you talk about Nmap, so Nmap has a command line as well as graphical user interface both. And then there is a comparison in OS support. So like Angry Bird support Windows, Linux, Mac OS. So similarly, your Nmap also supports most of the operating system. And again, similar to your Angry IP. So Angry IP, I showed you like we put a range of IP addresses. It gives all the information related in that range. So similar thing you can do on Nmap also. Again, you can save the file in both. But one difference is there. If you talk about Angry IP, it can only scan actually TCP ports, right? But in case of Nmap, actually it can scan TCP as well as UDP ports also. Then again, net BIOS information can be. And then scan types are different. So I didn't actually discuss all the scan types. I discussed, I think TCP connect I discussed, TCP SYN I discussed, right? So there are some other scanning techniques are also there, like TCP FIN is there, fragmentation is there, ping sweep is there. So it is showing that which of the, like mostly your Angry IP works on the ping sweep only. It works on, as I told you, it actually pings all those systems one by one. But if you talk about Nmap, it has all these actually scan types are there, right? Similarly, I think services identification is not there in Angry IP, but it is there in your Nmap. So these are some of the differences are there, but most of the things are, the basic attributes, if you see, then the Angry IP and the Nmaps are quite similar. Then I have mentioned some of the countermeasures that we can use for countering actually the scanning. So what as a user or as an organization we can do? So we can configure our firewalls to, so that it can detect any sort of anonymous activities or malicious activities. And then we can have some custom rules to lock down the network and block unwanted ports. If you have some request from the unwanted port, so simply you can actually block it. Then we can run some port scanning tools to determine whether the firewalls accurately detects the port scanning activities or not. Okay, so we can try it at our end also. We try to actually scan it from some particular ports, and okay, and we try to see whether those particular ports are being scanned or not, that these requests are coming from these particular ports. So again, security experts should ensure that proper configuration of NT scanners and NT escaping rules are followed or not. Okay, and again, security experts should ensure that the routers and the firewall firmware IDs are updated. Okay, and they are up to their, and they are, they are the latest releases. So those things, as a security expert or as a individual or as an organization, also we should keep in mind, so that we can counter actually these scanning things. So I have actually mentioned a tool also here that can be used for actually detect, that can be used to detect scanning. So SNOT IDs is one of the tools that actually we can use. So SNOT is actually an open source intrusion prevention system. Okay, so you can use it actually for various purposes. Like it can be used as a packet sniffer also. Okay, so you can trace all the packets from these tools. It is a packet logger also. So you can actually, if you want to have some network traffic debugging, then you can use this tool. Or it can be used as a full-blown network intrusion prevention system also. Like this can be used for preventing your system from some sort of scanning or some sort of malicious activities also. So I think more will be, more about this will be covered in the lab or the demo class. So that's all from this lecture. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
There is one query, I guess.
If anyone have any questions, please write in the chat box.
Okay, so there is, please re-explain the difference between TCP connect and SYN scan PDP. So sir, TCP connect is actually, it's a three-way handshake. The complete TCP handshake will be followed here. Okay, so the client will send the SYN packet, then it will wait for the acknowledgement, and again it will send a acknowledgement packet to the server. But if you talk about scene scan, so in scene scan, we are not following the complete TCP, handshake. We are just, as a hacker, what you need to do, just you need to send a scene packet to the client system and just wait for some reply from that client system. You don't need to actually send the acknowledgement finally. That is the basic difference there. So it's actually it actually saves time, okay, and it is more effective also. It is not easier to trace those kind of scanning interactions.